engine has. But because it's free practice, they've kind of got away with it. Mercedes said that it was a mistake in setting the machine that set the temperature, and the stewards have accepted that, and because it was in practice, they've been given a €5,000 fine. If that was qualifying, I think he'd probably be out and at the back of the grid. Certainly a grid penalty, but at least, it isn't qualifying, so there you go.
Have you ever known anyone be excluded for fuel, that sort of fuel irregularity before? Having too cool fuel temperature?
I do remember a fuel thing coming up at one point. I can't remember what happened as an eventuality, but it is a people thinking it's trivial. In terms of performance, it really isn't. Back in 1984, when fuel temperatures were first, I'm not suggesting that was you, Jolene, by the way, thinking it was trivial. Obviously, you know a lot about fuel temperatures.
No, fuel flow is absolutely critical.
Back in 1984, when fuel restrictions were first hissed on Team Radio from Giovinazzi.
Yeah, the drink is losing a lot of water. As soon as I go on the gas, I have also water on drink.
Copy, Antonio.
Okay, so as soon as he gets on the gas, he gets some water.
They've got the electrics wired up wrong there. They need to get the electrician back in.
Press the drink button for a bit of throttle. Yeah. So,
back in 1940, when fuel restrictions were first introduced in Formula 1, the teams would cool the fuel as much as they possibly could on the grid to get to cram as much as they could in the tank, and obviously have performance too. So it is taken very seriously in Formula 1.
Howard Horton here wants to know, Andrew, what do you think of Vettel retiring and Hülkenberg to Ferrari for 2020? Just a thought.
Well, as we discussed in free practice 1, Vettel has been insistent and consistently insistent he has no plans to retire. He said that in an interview with me at Silverstone, and he said it in an interview with Italy's Corriere della Sera yesterday, which has been published today, that interview, in which he says that his ambition to win the title is still alive with Ferrari. He's definitely going to be there next year because he's under contract, and it's a non-issue. And I should also emphasise that Mattia Binotto, the team boss, has made very clear in the last 2 or 3 weeks that both Vettel and Leclerc will stay with that team in 2020. Obviously, everybody's talking about it because Vettel, for the past few races, has been outperformed by Leclerc, and Leclerc is beginning to become or look like the number 1 at Ferrari, or de facto number 1, and for a 4-time world champion that's a difficult position for Vettel to be in. But I understand behind the scenes at Ferrari there's no indications from Vettel that he's even thinking along those lines. They're talking about next year, they're even talking about beyond next year in terms of car plans and what have you. So I know everyone's talking about it, but I'd be surprised.
What I found interesting from the team principal's press conference was actually Christian Horner ruling out Nico Hülkenberg, which I thought might be a sort of wild card shot for Red Bull as well. Bearing in mind the 3 drivers that he basically said are in contention, they've already got rid of 2 of them in the past, which is Kvyat and Gasly, the 2 drivers in a Toro Rosso now. Therefore, if Albon doesn't produce the goods in the next 7 races, he's still said that they're going to take one of the 3 of them, and pretty much ruled out Nico Hülkenberg, which I thought would be a good pair of hands if they've got any doubt on those 3 younger drivers as well.
Yeah, on the face of it, I'd be surprised about that too. However, I do hear from inside Red Bull that they've been very impressed by Albon so far. Jockey did in both Belgium and in order of he found Albon driving sparring back, and what I'm told is that as long as he has a good next 2 or 3 races,
and this is the thing, we talk about Steiner's unprofessionalism in saying what he says about Grosjean. Horner can't say anything but, our Red Bull drivers from our Red Bull Junior program, okay, Albon Horner, blah blah blah, are the ones in contention for the seat. He can't be there saying, oh yeah, not sure about Albon, maybe we'll consider Hülkenberg and bring someone else in rather than our young drivers. Of course he can. He doesn't have to rule out drivers that could be racing for the Red Bull race-winning team for next year. That's like Fred Vasseur, who was also in the press conference, said that they're going with Giovinazzi for now. They're letting him evolve, and he's making good progress. But all the standard party line things, but at the same time not ruling out Hülkenberg as another option, who's a proven great driver and currently out of contract at the end of the year.
Good news for Charles Leclerc and Ferrari. He's now just making final preparations. He's stepped into the car and is just lobbing himself into the seats. I can't put it any other way because it's not exactly a graceful move. There's a bag of dry ice in a helmet that's just being about to be hoisted onto his lap.
So, Charles Leclerc then getting into the car. Only he and Max Verstappen have yet to go out on the circuit at the moment, and we had a big opposite lock moment for Kimi Räikkönen a moment ago, coming down through turn 2, and Daniel Kvyat has brushed the wall, taking a little bit of paint off the concrete on the outside, without being delicate. Were you ever in the wall here? No, I don't think I ever was actually. Not even a brush or anything.
Oh, I would have had a brush, but you got to be having a brush at some point. Yeah. I never damaged the car on a wall here. It was one of my better races. This one.
An hour and 20 minutes left on the clock. Then Russell quickest at the moment for what it's worth, 1 minute 43.2 at the Williams. Then Albon 4 tenths back, Norris third, Kubica 4, Räikkönen, Kvyat, Magnussen, Grosjean, Giovinazzi, the 9 drivers who have set the lap time. The other thing I like about, and this is, absolutely wasted on you radio listeners, unfortunately, is the see-through visors that everyone has at Singapore. You can really see folks' eyes and really, connect to watching the drivers. But yeah, obviously apologies because you can't see it. There's a yellow flag out there in sector 2. It's just gone away now, so someone's had a bit of a drama in that middle sector.
Albon's went off at turn 7. Romain Grosjean's done that already in this session as well. And Albon was on his second flying lap. He's currently 4 tenths away from George Russell, who's top out of the 10 drivers so far. But he's gone off at 7 and he's going slowly.
I think he's just getting out of the way in the end. I thought he was going straight on, but he was just getting out of the way. What are Williams in this weekend? Obviously Spa and Monza, they always said would not suit them. And well, we're just about to see what happened to Alexander Albon actually. He was coming up to turn 7, the left-hander at the end of the long back straight. Oh, squeal of tyres and he just goes straight on.
No massive drama there for Albon. Missed the sound on board, braked up 80 metres. But he's on the hard tyre again, and that's the tyre that Bottas was on to stick it in the wall earlier on. Less grip, and Albon then trying to push the limits and having a reasonable front left lock up as well. He's got to be careful because he's going to want to race run that tyre later on. But he's continued on his way.
Williams, Andrew, am I putting you on the spot there? Are they going to be more competitive here than obviously Spa and Monza were going to be tricky after a very successful Budapest?
I would expect it to be more competitive. It's not a very efficient car, so the fact that there's lots of corners is good for them. But let's not they're still going to be at the back.
Yeah, sure, but a little more in the fight than perhaps previous.
Well, Hungary, Russell was in Q2.
Yeah,
that's another tight, twisty track, albeit smoother and without the barriers right on the outside. But I think they look all right. Russell's just improved again. He's on the soft tyre, but he's third.
An hour and 17 minutes left on the clock. Sergio Perez quickest, Ricciardo second, Magnussen third, Russell down to 4th, Räikkönen 5th, Sainz, Albon, Gasly, Norris, Kubica in the top 10, Kvyat, Grosjean, Giovinazzi, Stroll, Vettel in the top 15, but Vettel has not done a representative lap yet. But he's just done the fastest first sector of anyone, 27.4, so he's pushing. Hamilton also on the medium compounded tyres is pushing and looking like he's going to go to the top of the times. Quickest lap time from first free practice was at 1 minute 40.2. Hamilton crossed the line through at 1 minute 40.6.
Medium tyres on the Mercedes. Sergio Perez is second in the Racing Point, but he's on the soft tyres. Vettel's done the fastest first sector, which is just about a tenth quicker than Hamilton, but he didn't get a middle sector in last time because he had a bit of traffic, and this time he has, but he's half a second away from Hamilton in the middle sector. The first sector in Singapore is short. It's really the first sequence of left, right, left, 1, 2, 3, which comes very, very quickly, and then turn 5, the right-hander. The middle sector's longer. In the third sector, you can lose so much time, so that's going to be critical. That's where Vettel is now, through 18 and 19, where Bottas hit the wall earlier on, and Vettel now sweeping through. You've got to get right up to the barriers, and this is where you can't glance them, and Vettel's just a millimetre or so away, and into the final corner.
Here he comes then, out across the line, Sebastian Vettel, and he goes third quickest on a 1 minute 41.598, so that is 9 tenths of a second slower than much slower than Lewis Hamilton.
And that the first sector again is slightly longer in terms of the straight lines, which is again where Ferrari have been quicker. This track is not at all like Spa and Monza, where Ferrari were really quick in the first sector and Mercedes were gathering it back through the corners. There are corners everywhere here, but in comparison, the first sector's got the long run through turn 5 and 7.
Well, yes, the first sector is shorter in terms of time, but not in terms of distance, because basically they're split into 3 equal thirds. So, but the first sector here is something like 27 seconds, then the middle sector's 38, and the final sector's 34.
It's just got less corners, basically,
yeah.
So less areas for the drivers to make up time, because that's where the skill is.
Yeah, I can do. Actually, there's still some skill in straight lining, drag racing. Have you ever been to a drag race?
Yep.
Have you?
Yeah.
Sat in the pod?
Yeah, it's
Was it?
pod. Yeah.
How was it? Why were you there?
Loud. I went for it. I was about 6 years old. A lovely day out. It was very loud for a 6-year-old boy, but amazing.
Great. I need to get to a drag race. There's something else I need to get to. I can't think. Oh, rally. I want to go to the. What are you doing on Friday, 5th of October? Do you want to go watch Rally GB? Oh, I'm going to get turned down on air now. Let's move on. We've got an hour and 14 minutes left on the clock. Benny, you interested? Have you ever been to Rally GB?
No.
Do you want to come?
No.
Why not? We'll come to Wales for the day. You and me. It'll be lovely.
I've got a family, should I spend time with?
What are you doing with your family during the day on a Friday?
I don't know, maybe ride my bike. Not with them, obviously.
Oh, okay. So just rather ride your bike.
I'm sorry, James. I don't
That's
want
fine.
to
We take
stand
it
in
down.
a cold and wet forest in Wales.
An hour and 13 minutes to go. Hamilton quickest. If you want to, no, I'm not going to do a public hashtag BBC F1. If you want to come with me, Jenny, do you want to come?
If you want to
Rally
be Jack's
GB?
mate.
I love the way I didn't even get an invite.
Well, you did. I'm just looking around the booth. Like,
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not there. I didn't spring to mind.
so
I'm already going.
What do you mean you're already going?
I'm not inviting you.
you're already going.
How about that? How do you like to get that for?
What are you doing? Where are you going?
I don't even. No, of course I'm not going yet.
Oh,
I might do. I think my daughter would like that. She loves cars.
let's do it. The only rally I've been to is the Northwest Stages, where I was cameraman for a stage in a what's it called? A sewage plant. It was not pleasant. It was not pleasant. There we go. The road to Formula One. An hour and 12 minutes to go. Hamilton flying, and someone else needs to do some talking. Palmer, it's over to you. Hamilton through the final 2 corners.
Can I just say, I think Lewis Hamilton is looking super strong at the moment.
He's just done a 1:40.4, then a second quicker than Sergio Perez, but on the medium compounded tyre, a second quicker than Bottas. But I think Bottas has got another run to come on this next lap.
And Bottas hit the wall earlier as well.
Yeah.
Charles Leclerc's out and pushing, and he's matched Sebastian Vettel's first sector. Hamilton's beat both of the Ferraris up in the first sector as well. He's got a big second margin to Perez and Bottas. But here goes Leclerc then on the same compounded tyre as Lewis, Hamilton, and Valtteri Bottas as well for that matter. And let's see what he can do through the middle sector. Opens the DRS out at turn 13, following in Toro Rosso up to the braking zone of 14. And this is a good lap actually for Leclerc. First time lap of the day, of the evening. And 32 tenths down. And he had a gearbox problem in the first practice session, so didn't get a huge amount of running in there either, only 12 laps or so. So it is relatively one of his first laps of the day. Comes underneath the left-hander of 18, underneath the grandstand through 19 where Bottas crashed, makes it through there, doesn't get up and all over the curve through that chicane at the end of the lap, and then he's into the final couple of corners at 22 and 23, past our commentary box window and out across the line, and Charles Leclerc goes third, half a second away from Hamilton, and just a fraction behind Sergio Perez in the racing point. That's tidy, that is, from Leclerc. But again, this is the sort of circuit where you need to build up and build up. And he's not really had that luxury because of this gearbox issue earlier on. But straight into third place, half a second away. Perez in second's an anomaly. It's a great lap from him, but he's on the soft tyre. Full second ahead of Stroll, who's in 8th still. But Ferrari, half a second from Hamilton to Mercedes out front on the same tyre, and Ferrari down a mileage. That should only close.
We should also say that Leclerc's half a second quicker than more than half a second quicker than Vettel in that first lap. After his late start, which is also super impressive. I also realised, by the way, that I missed an opportunity when Jack was invited to Wales Rally GB. I should have just said I was
To
washing,
accept?
I should have just said I was washing my hair.
To be clear, Andrew Benson is bald. Just in case that joke was lost on people. An hour and 10 minutes to go in the session. Hamilton quickest, 4/10 ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Perez third, but on the soft compounded tyre. Leclerc fourth, half a second away from Hamilton. Verstappen in fifth, but on the hard compounded tyre. Then Vettel, Sainz, Stroll, Kvyat, Ricciardo, the top 10. Raikkonen, Magnussen, Norris, Hulkenberg, Russell, the top 15. Gasly, Kubica, Giovinazzi, and Albon and all. And Albon, just as we talk about him, on one of his first laps out there. Well, no, he's on the hard compounded tyre. Oh, he's done his front wing. He's up at turn 10, and the front wing has come off for Alex Albon. He's nosed the barrier there. So we'll wait for a replay to see exactly what's happened. But Albon in the walls and in the wall. Again, not a usual place for drivers to go off where he's gone straight in. That's the old Singapore sling then. It used to be a left, right, left, bouncing over the high curves of the chicane. Now it's a sort of quicker left-hand sweep, and Albon's just nudged the front wing off, and he's now continuing with no front wing on the car. Let's have a look and see what happened then. He's coming down out of 9, just got to pick a braking point for 10, about 60 metres, so he just carried in a lot of speed and went plumb straight in. Nose first, didn't even turn at all. That was a lot of speed in. That was a panic moment. I think he must have outbraked himself by 20 metres or something there. It looked about right on maybe a little bit, but he braked on a bump, which immediately locked the left front up. And I think from there he sort of just panicked and didn't try and turn, didn't try and do anything. It just went straight and hit the wall. Not too hard, and actually hitting it square on in the nose should mean that the suspension's all intact, which it seems to be. So might get away with just a front wing change, but he hit it relatively hard. Jenny's down in the pit lane.
Yeah, it's just coming past right now. I'm outside Mercedes actually, and he's just come in. I'll push him back into his pit box, and the front wing obviously gone. I think there's a little bit of damage to the floor as well. Maybe it's just picked up when the wing came off. But yeah, an ugly looking Red Bull. It always looks so weird when that sort of stubby nose and no front wing.
Looks like a car from the 80s. So that was Albon's second mistake of the session. He'd already gone off at turn 7 and done a U-E, and then had another front lock up down at turn 10. 8 laps, 19th position, 2.2 seconds from Max Verstappen. It's early days, but this is back to the Christian Horner comments. It's so early to rule out another driver based on no qualifying comparisons, no race comparisons, and you've got 2 guys that you've got rid of already, and a guy that is still very unproven, albeit did an impressive recovery drive in Spa. So Albon then down in 19th place on those hard tyres. He's coming to the pits now. Verstappen is up in 5th. Just so you guys know, I'm getting flooded with people on Twitter who want to come to Rally GB with me, so I don't even need you anymore. To Wales or Alton Park for the first stage. So I wouldn't go to Alton Park, but I'd go after the first stage. They then drop a little south and sort of near Snowdon kind of way. What's wrong with Alton Park? I love Alton Park as a race circuit. I don't want to go there to watch a rally. That feels like I haven't really achieved anything. New special stage. You're interested, aren't you? Oh, Leclerc's got very close to the back of Lance Stroll. Isn't happy about it, and yeah, he got held up a little bit down in the second corner. Stroll on the apex of turn 2, and this is what Leclerc had to say.
Stroll is dangerous. I don't know what he did. I don't know why.
Stroll is dangerous, says Leclerc. He was just slow on the racing line through turns 1 and 2 is really where Leclerc tripped over him. But yeah, you needed to be more aware. You can't. There's only one racing line, one real line that you can take through there. And Stroll was on the racing line, and Leclerc nearly just straight up hit it. Hamilton goes quicker again, a 1 minute 39.991, and now Leclerc is pushing but has lost a little time. Lance Stroll's actually done his personal best first sector. Leclerc did a good first sector. Gasly goes up to 6th place in the Toro Rosso, 1.4 seconds away from Hamilton, but on the hard compounded tyre. Leclerc has found a bit more time in the middle sector now in his Ferrari, as comes through that middle sector. It's not a personal best in the middle sector, and it's 7/10 away from Hamilton actually.
Ferrari are suffering in the third sector particularly, but a bit in the second, and if they're missing a bit of downforce, it's what will basically mean they're sliding more and overheating the rear tyres, and that'll be a lot more critical later on in the lap as well. So that has been an issue for them in recent races, but particularly race pace as well, where they're working their tyres harder, and it's why Hamilton's very strong and threatening to them in the races. But yeah, they're all right in the first sector, but they're really coming unstuck in the second and third.
Yeah, the third one, Leclerc just did a good one actually. He was only 100 slower than Hamilton, so all of his 7/10 went in the middle sector on that last lap. Not only have we got people coming to Wales Rally GB, Simon Taylor says, "Can I join the bike ride?" That's a bleak prospect, isn't it? Someone's like, "Oh, a bike ride with Andrew Benson, sign me up for that."
Talk about fuel and cooling.
He actually has a question about fuel to Simon Taylor. Do we know if Hamilton's fuel was tested during previous weekends? Is it possible that he's been running too cool fuel all year? There's something I find interesting about scrutiny. Do they check absolutely everything, or is it like sort of drug testing, random spot checks?
It's not everything all the time, but it will have been checked. Yeah.
Okay. An hour and 4 minutes left on the clock. Can Simon come on a bike ride?
I don't know. I'm not saying I'm definitely going on one yet. I'm just looking for an excuse not to go to the rally, really.
Corey prevents it.
Anything's going to stop me going to the rally.
Do you really hate rallying that much?
I don't hate it, I just don't want to drive all the way to Snowdon for you to see some cars in
What about
bloody
Alton
forest.
Park? Is Alton Park a no-go still?
I feel a bit like Jack about Alton Park. I've seen plenty of racing at Alton Park. I don't need to go and watch a rally there.
Spectacular.
These are brilliant,
Yeah,
brilliant tracks.
Sign us up. My first big commentary gig was 2011 British GT at Alton Park in the Knickerbrook chicane. Lovely stuff. Great day. Do you remember it? Felipe Nasr won the British F3 race. There's your fact. Oh dear.
Who?
Felipe Nasr, the guy you destroyed in GP2.
Oh, yeah.
An hour and 3 minutes to
Actually,
go.
can I just say something else? Did you say October the 4th?
5th, isn't it? Something like that weekend.
Okay, well, 4th of October is my son's 10th birthday, so that's a very good reason not to
nicely
go.
done.
That rules out the Alton Park day then, the first day.
It's a good job it didn't take you 20 minutes to remember your son's birthday to go using it as an excuse.
Watching his hair came first.
So we've got an hour and 2 minutes left on the clock. Most of the drivers now have returned to the pits, bar Lando Norris, who's in 10th place. The order is Hamilton quickest, 7/10 ahead of Verstappen and ahead of Leclerc, although Verstappen was on the hard compounded tyre. Bottas in 4th, Perez 5th, Gasly, Vettel, Sainz, Stroll, Norris the top 10. Then Kvyat, Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Magnussen, Giovinazzi in top 15, Hulkenberg in 16th place, Russell and Kubica in 17th and 18th, and then an error for Alex Albon being eaten in the wall. And Romain Grosjean hasn't hooked up a lap either. A long way up the pace, about a second and a half away from Magnussen, so that's not representative for Grosjean, who's down in 20th position. So everybody back in the pits, bar Lando Norris.
I'm looking forward to this next flurry, you know?
Yeah.
It's going to be the first time we've seen, I'm assuming everyone's going to be going out on a set of soft tyres for a quali sim. The classic FP2 midway point, really. And we're going to see a direct comparison, really, of Mercedes v Red Bull. Verstappen currently second, 7/10 away, but on a harder tyre. And what can Ferrari do as well? They've looked quick at various times, but yeah, Ferrari need a bit of work right now.
Sure, they're having a bit of work, certainly to the rear end of Vettel's car. Cable ties near an exhaust. I love F1. They spend million upon million of pounds making the cars, and then they get like sticky tape, gaffer tape, and cable ties during a practice session. Okay, so it's very strange. Anyway, so that's going on at the back of Vettel's car at the moment. On the other side of the garage, it's the calmer scene because the engine covers are all fine on Leclerc's car, He's just waiting to be sent out. No tyres on the car as of yet, as Lando Norris trundles back down on the hard tyres with his companion.
Okay, so plenty of work going on in the pit lane. Norris has just returned to the pit lane. The Dingle Do Happy says, tell Andrew Benson he doesn't know what he's missing. You don't know what you're missing.
What, going on a bike ride with...
No, going on Wales Rally GB.
I do know what I'm missing. I know what rallying is.
Have you been to one before?
No.
It's all about the atmos. Standing in the forest for hours and then... Great.
Yeah.
I've done quite a bit of rallying. Not driving.
What rallies have you been to?
Every year I used to go to the Rally of Jersey and present and do all the reporting for the Rally of Jersey, which is a phenomenal rally. Because in Jersey they only have one dual carriageway where the speed limit is 40 miles an hour. So but one weekend of the year it all goes a bit crazy, but it's lovely over there. Some beautiful stages. Rallying is a mega cool experience. Unlike Formula One, it's absolute antithesis of it, I suppose, but so cool. What people?
Yeah.
Can I just say, I used to love rallying back in the day when it was good.
Nah, but
I just don't think rallying
the new,
I'm being completely
to be
frank.
fair, the new WRC cars, that's why I'm quite excited to go, because there was a period, I don't know, of sort of 5, 6, 7 years that ended only a couple of years ago where it was a bit it kind of stopped being good in the sort of late 90s, mid 2000s, and then everything got smaller and everything got a bit meh. But now they've really beefed them up again, the current WRC specifications. Are you a Group B man? Did you love a bit of Group B?
A bit of Group B, look at the sort of Carlos Sainz era.
Yeah.
It's an absolute privilege to now know Carlos Sainz in the paddock and realise he's such a nice guy as well, as an absolute animal in a rally car. But anyway, yes, there you go. Those were the halcyon days of rallying.
Yeah, no, that's fair. 58 minutes left on the clock. We have got no one out on circuit at the moment, although as I say that, the Williams have just left the pit lane, haven't they? So George Russell and Robert Kubica are out on the soft compounded tyres, so they're going to be the first to go. We're not going to get any kerfuffles with regards to slipstreaming this weekend. May get a bit of kerfuffles with regards to traffic with 58 minutes left on the clock. And Russell is swinging around the final few corners now to start a flying lap. I always thought coming into this season, Russell was in a relatively win-win situation, because I always felt if he beat Kubica, that's impressive. If he lost out to Kubica, you know, World Championship contender in 2008 first year, that's all right. That's kind of fine. And I think he has won from this year, despite being at the back of the field.
He's won the win-win.
Yeah,
he has won, but what does he want is the question. He's won another year at Williams, just a second year, which he was already guaranteed basically from signing the contract. So his reputation is reasonable, but the comparison's been weaker than I think people imagined, to be blunt, really. Kubica. I think from fairly early on it was clear that Russell had a considerable upper hand, and he's done well. But yeah, again, you need the comparison, and with Williams being so far off the pace, he's not really been racing anyone apart from his teammate, and his teammate has been disappointing. With an occasional flash, but it's difficult for Russell. But given that he's made mistakes and he's always been ahead, so he's kept motivation, and his one mistake was probably the one that cost him the point in Hockenheim, going in deep at turn 2, which will be a frustration for him, I'm sure. But he's done a good first and second sector. But if Williams next, I think Williams will be relatively midfield next year, like nowhere near this year. They'll be in the relative mix, I would have thought. They should be. Who are they going to take as a second driver? We've spoken a lot about Nico Hulkenberg and Alfa and Haas, but Williams, Robert Kubica announced yesterday that he's leaving the team. Russell's just gone 7th on a quali simulation run on the soft tyre, but that's not bad at all. 1.4 seconds away from Hamilton's benchmark, but the times will drop as everyone else puts in lap times. Kubica's out there now trying to respond. But yeah, who do Williams take? Is it just going to be Nicholas Latifi?
their third driver, front runner in GP2, in Formula 2, bit of money behind him. Do we hear of anyone else, Mr. Benson?
I think he's the favourite, as far as I understand it. There's not been a lot of names banded around with Williams, to be honest with you. I mean, they'd have to look at Hulk, but does Hulk want to go to Williams? Go back full circle to where he started his career? They need money, I'm pretty sure. They have some pretty disappointing financial results published in the last week or so. Quite significant loss in the first half of this year, so Hulk's going to be paying a significant amount of money, not just obviously bringing money. So I don't know what that week is going to happen. So I would expect it to be better.
Russell ends up 0.6 of a second, 0.7 of a second quicker than Robert Kubica after their first run. Jenny is down in the pits with news from it.
Yeah, Alexander Albon, new nose, and he's just heading out onto track now. I expect Max Verstappen to be relatively close behind him as well from Red Bull. And just on William, you say about George Russell that he won his win-win situation. The major win for Russell surely has to be the fact that he's managed to get rid of Ocon. Okay, he hasn't done it, but Ocon is now no longer part of the Mercedes Junior program. He's gone across to Renault, which means Russell is automatically number 2 in that program, or number 1, I suppose, in the program now. So if there's a seat going at the end of next year, because Bottas is signed for next year already, then Russell, who will be out of contract with Williams at the end of next year as well, would have to go, okay, excellent, Ocon's out of the picture, I could be in line for a seat at Merc.
That's a fair point. I think Ocon leaving Merc is definitely a big win for Russell, because Ocon would have been ahead of Russell in that queue for Bottas' drive, and certainly he needs Williams to be more competitive next year if he's got any chance. Williams needs to be in the midfield pack, and he can start to show what he's got. But I see Russell as he's a Bottas replacement. He's not a Hamilton replacement. Again, Bottas is on the 1-year deal for next year, and I'm sure we'll be in the question marks by next summer if Russell's doing a good job and Bottas is wilting slightly. He could be there, but Mercedes don't have to take him. They've got a lot of options, and Verstappen's been a well-mooted one for some time. So Mercedes they had Russell, was it end of 2016 he got his first run in the Force India at Brazil. I can't remember if it was 16 or 17. Was it 17? And he did a decent job and all that. Have Mercedes got any other kids on the books at the moment? Because they had Russell and Ocon.
They said they were going to back out of the junior program, didn't they, after all the kerfuffle with drive parking last year?
Yes, yeah. Haven't really got anyone kind of up and coming, have they? So it is very much a Russell in the sort of prime seat, but then at the same time they don't have that commitment to the junior program that perhaps a Red Bull has, in which they would take someone from a sort of another team. As we have got 52 minutes left on the clock. Now Verstappen has left the pit lane on a set of soft tyres. Bottas has left the pit lane on a set of soft tyres. The Ferraris and Hamilton are still in the pits. Alex Albon is just starting his flying lap now on the soft tyres through the first sector, and he's 2 tenths down on Lewis Hamilton in sector 1 as he now comes into the middle sector naturally through the right-hander of turn 8, where it pretty much meets the right-hander of turn 14 and the left-hander of turn 9 down the Nickel Highway, and then onto the left-hander that takes him eventually out over the little narrow Anderson Bridge, and then the hard left-hander of turn 13, where there's a new DRS zone for the race this year, and we'll see what Albon has after the first 2 sectors. So 2 tenths away on Hamilton after sector 1. After sector 2, he is 2 tenths away. And Hamilton, his lap time was on the medium tyres. This isn't a million miles away from Albon.
The times are going to drop, and you can be sure that Hamilton, Verstappen and co are going to all improve. They're all out on outlaps right now. The 2 Ferraris and Hamilton left the pits, and Albon now through the final sector. He's got to find a little bit more time, I feel, and he's a little bit wide in the right-hander of turn 20. Just 1 corner to go, flashes underneath. The corner truck looks so quick out the window, sparks flying out the back as well in the darkness, and Albon goes to the top. Really good last sector, but that's where the grip's going to come from with the soft tyres. Good, you normally pick up a bit more rear grip than front, and that's where you've got all those traction zones and little bursts. and you can find a bit of time. Verstappen, though, his teammates just done the fastest first sector of anyone.
Yeah, 4/10 quicker than Albon in the first sector alone. Hamilton is on an outlap now on the soft tyres, just coming through the final couple of corners. Bottas is also on that outlap, so it will be Hamilton who's the next to start a flyer. Singapore flyer, as Albon came around the final corners. Huge amounts of sparks. I've asked you before whether sparks are distracting, but you looked at me like I was an idiot. Verstappen, fastest ever through the first sector, through the middle sector. He's on the fastest middle sector of anyone as well. Hamilton now is coming through the first sector right up to the wall on the exit of turn 5, and then flat out down the back straight through the little kink at turn 6, comes through the first sector split, and Hamilton is slower than Verstappen by 0.2 of a second.
Bit of understeer through turn 7, struggled to get the front in, and then 8 struggled with a little bit from the rear as well, so not absolutely hooked up right now, Lewis Hamilton, but he's still almost on par with Max Verstappen. He's just coming through the final corner now, and he's had a really great lap, Verstappen, and he goes to the top a full second quicker than Alex Albon, so that is a proper benchmark there for Max Verstappen. Albon's got some work to do. He's on a slow lap and he'll go again, I'm sure. But what can Hamilton do through the middle sector? He's picked up a bit of pace through the second part of this middle sector. DRS open now, and he's just lost a little bit more to Verstappen. I think that was with those couple of corners, 7 and 8.
But it's Vettel who set the fastest first sector of anyone, a 26.9, fractionally quicker than Verstappen in sector 1. So Verstappen's done a 38.9, 9/10 quicker than Albon. Hamilton is coming around the final couple of corners now into turns 20, 21, 22, 23, and out across the line. He's got Howard in front of him on the road who's just winding up for a quick one. Hamilton absolutely flying in this final sector, cuts the timing beam and goes quickest by 0.2 of a second. Most of it coming in that final sector, which was absolutely on it. Bottas across the line behind is 1.1 seconds away from his teammate.
Wow, big gap there. Both Ferraris backed off in the middle sector, so they were both quick in the first. Vettel still has the fastest first sector of anyone, but he's aborted in the middle sector, and Leclerc has as well. Leclerc was a 10th away from his teammate in the first sector. So the Ferraris remain 6th for Leclerc, now 12th for Sebastian Vettel, but showing pace, not able to put it on the scoreboard right now.
And what you're seeing, Jack, just sorry to interrupt there, with Hamilton's lap is the importance of balancing the life of the tyres that you have on one lap. It's such a long lap here. Here's Vettel's radio, it's been blocked.
What's he doing there? Just sleeping.
Yeah, Magnussen just sleeping.
Yeah, right on the racing line there through 10, 11, and Vettel, similar to Leclerc earlier on, there's nowhere to go. There's one line through there. He was rapid through the first sector, but could not keep full pace in the middle sector with Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah, sorry, back to that point about the tyres. Hamilton 2/10 off in the first sector, didn't really make up any time in the middle sector. And then as we were watching the mini sectors coming up on our screen there, purple, fastest all the way through that final sector. It's all about balancing the tyres out over one lap in that perfection there.
Just see what Alex Albon's got coming through the final couple of corners now. He did a personal best improvement in the first sector, but I don't think he's going to improve overall. Through the final couple of corners he comes. Left-hander of 22, then flat out through 23, and he's 2 seconds away. So he
Lost a heap of time there through the lap, and that's pretty much the opposite of what Andrew was just saying. Tyres that can stay for the start of the lap and then go away, and of course that's Albon's second time lap on this set of tyres as well, and the soft tyres should be good for one time lap only. It's such a long lap that you've pretty much got the corner of 23 corners, could be 2 laps in other circuits, but yeah, it's a lot to get through, and you put so much load and strain through the rears particularly that Albon there just didn't have anything left. Hamilton improved the first but not the second there.
Sorry, I thought you were done. Hamilton quickest, 0.2 quicker than Verstappen in second. Then it's a second back to Bottas and Albon, and Sainz is in 5th. Hulkenberg 6th. Norris, Gasly, Leclerc could be out the top 10 because the Ferraris didn't get a lap in. Vettel was held up by Magnussen. We didn't see what happened to Charles Leclerc. Jenny.
It's fascinating watching those hot laps when you're down here in the pit lane. I was outside Max Verstappen's garage, and you could see his mechanics watching intently on the TV screens. They've got massive TV screens back and side of the garage on either side. and they're watching and just nodding, and they know when their driver's having a good lap, and you know they all seem pretty impressed with Max Verstappen on his lap. I just find it really interesting to watch them as they're sucking their ice lollies.
Yeah, that's got me thinking about ice lollies now. Daniel Ricciardo out there on the circuit. He is on a lap at the moment. His teammate Nico Hülkenberg is 6th. Carlos Sainz is best of the rest for McLaren at the moment in 5th position. Ricciardo has come through the middle sector and done a personal best. His first sector was okay, and Sainz is doing another lap. We haven't really seen Vettel through the first sector. That's good, actually. Only half a tenth away from his previous quickest time. So Vettel doing a decent job in sector 1. Leclerc has come through sector 1, and he's okay. Again, these guys aren't improving, but they might be able to put in a more representative lap time. And Vettel through the middle sector now, doing another reasonable job. Keep an eye out on his times. Verstappen has returned to the pits, Hülkenberg has returned to the pits, and then the two Williams of George Russell and Ron Kubica are in the pits. Leclerc is heading out there now through the middle sector, and he's looking like he's going to improve. But he's a second away from Verstappen's middle sector, Charles Leclerc, and the same is true of Vettel. Yeah, they're 13 thousandths apart, both a second away from Verstappen in the Red Bull, and a huge twitch from Leclerc out of turn 19. Really biting the rear of the car. Of course, this is their second lap as well, so they would have taken a bit of life out of the tyres with their first aborted push laps. But Leclerc comes through, crosses the line and goes 5th, 1.2 seconds adrift of Lewis Hamilton. And then Vettel is 1.3 seconds adrift, so that's miles. At the moment, you've got Hamilton and Verstappen separated by a tenth. Then it's a second back to Bottas and Albon, 1.2 to Leclerc, 1.3 to Vettel. This is what we thought, we thought would be the lead battle in FP1. We thought this could be back to a Hamilton v Verstappen showdown, as it was in Hungary. And right now, the two of them are a second clear from the rest of the field. Hamilton a 10th up on Verstappen, and then a full second back to both of their teammates, and another smidge back to the two Ferraris in 5th and 6th. I still wonder if Ferrari got more to show than that, because they had to abort their initial laps. But Hamilton's still out there, and he's done his personal best first sector of all. Can he keep pace through the second and third sectors? And can Bottas get closer, because he's coming through the first sector now? Hamilton maybe has dropped off a little. He's done a decent middle sector. Bottas is a tenth or so away from Hamilton in sector 1, but still improving now. We're watching Hamilton come through the final sequence of corners, through the left-hander of 18, underneath the grandstand, and then flicking back right through 19, then the sort of little chicane at 20 and 21, and then just one more corner to go for Hamilton, which will bring him in front of the commentary box and round the final corner and out across the line. And Hamilton cuts the timing beam and does not improve, but is only 0.04 slower than he managed previously, so still absolutely fine and absolutely miles ahead of everyone else bar Verstappen. Impressive that from Hamilton. Bottas has lost half a second to his teammate in the middle sector, a tenth in the first, and coming through the final sector now, and not set for an improvement right now, Valtteri Bottas. But Hamilton matching his best time on now his third flying lap on this set of tyres. Bottas is 6 tenths away from Hamilton in the middle sector. That's where the time's going, isn't it? Yeah. Did you just say that? Yeah, that's what I said. Sorry, yeah, my apologies. 42 minutes left on the clock. Bottas comes out through the final corner now, and it's a 40.0. So, again, only 2 tenths slower than he managed previously, but still a long, long way back from Lewis Hamilton. And that is less of a glowing review for Ferrari then. I thought maybe the second time lap sort of accounted for more pace. Yeah. But Mercedes are able to do it on the second lap and pretty much match their best, and Ferrari are 1.2 or 1.3 seconds adrift. And even if you give them a tenth or two, give them half a second, they're still a long way adrift. So a bit of work to do for the Italian team.
And Valtteri Bottas, goodness me, he's going to get back to the pits and look at those overlays of the telemetry and think, what have I got to do? I mean, we thought the championship was over, but that in itself, those laps sort of illustrate exactly how over it is, I think.
Jenny Gowers in the pit lane.
Yes, and Max Verstappen setting and doing that. He's obviously not all the perfect stuff. So Adrian Newey, who's here this weekend, all of the sort of big wing engineers came over to that's actually loud car. I do apologise. Alexander is just revving his engine and he comes into the pit box. Yes, so we're trying to work out whether they need to put a new front wing on or not, and how much damage it actually done to it, if it was fundamental or just a little bit of surface damage. They've gone with the option of putting on a revised front, well, not a revised front wing, it's a different front wing or spare that they carry. But there's obviously significant development happening at the front wing because Adrian Newey is pouring over it like an avid fan. Looks at it like it's an album cover that's just been released. It's fascinating to look at it.
Okay, so 40 minutes left on the clock, and Red Bull then both back in the pits. It's only Bottas who's returning, and Leclerc and Vettel who were returning. And
Leclerc's just completed another lap and 3 down on his best lap, so no improvement as well. And that sort of is roughly in keeping with the second attempt of the Mercedes duo as well, just losing a little bit of grip. Albon lost a lot more on his second lap, but yeah, Leclerc tried to push again, improved the middle second just, but not the first and third.
so less than 40 minutes to go in the session, and we've had our qualifying runs, and that means that Lewis Hamilton is quickest at 1 minute 38.7 ahead of Verstappen on a 1 minute 38.9, Bottas on a 1 minute 39.8, Albon on a 1 minute 39.9, then Leclerc and Vettel 5th and 6th on 40.0s and 40.1s respectively. Sainz best of the rest in 7th place. It is 8th place for Nico Hülkenberg, Norris in 9th, Gasly 10th, Kvyat 11th, Ricciardo, Perez, Giovinazzi, Stroll the top 15, Raikkonen 16th, and then you've got Grosjean in 17th, Russell 18th, Magnussen 19th, and we have seen in the past Haas looking quite adrift and then sort of recovering, but it's just mad, the Haas thing. Like, they were buzzing at the start of the year.
Yeah, I remember speaking to Kevin Magnussen in Australia, and he was just so quietly confident. It was obvious that he really thought this was going to be their year. He was thinking they might even get near Red Bull, and Red Bull, remember, started the year nowhere near where they are now. They've made a huge step forward, in fairness, and also Pierre Gasly was sort of amongst the Hasses in some of those earlier rounds as well. But where they've gone from there, and they were both in Q3. Grosjean should have scored points like Magnussen did as well, but for a pit stop issue. And now they're just falling and falling and falling, 17th and 19th, sandwiching Russell Williams. It's there's a lot for them to do.
Vettel's just improved, but he's 0.8 of a second away from Hamilton and Verstappen, so still quite a way adrift. He's done an extra run compared to Leclerc, but still, those tyres would have still been off. But you know, 0.8 away.
That's not a bad lap actually for Vettel. That's 0.8, but with aging tyres, which can account for a little bit. He's got himself ahead of Bottas by a comfortable margin as well, and Albon as well. So that's all right. He's not in the mix for Hamilton and Verstappen yet, but there's a little bit of life for Sebastian Vettel and Ferrari in their hopes. He is good at this circuit, and he needs to really find a bit and keep this form going.
Whoa! Kevin Magnussen has just been pushed into the wall by Perez.
What the hell? I don't know, but damage, guys. I think how much the damage. Okay, understood.
Well,
Opening up the lap. He tries to my lap up.
something that's a bit of beefy needle, because basically they were coming around the final couple of corners. Magnussen suddenly decided he wanted to go in front of Perez. They were both doing like 60 miles an hour. Then Magnussen goes for the overtake, and Perez, looking in his mirror the whole time, just sort of puts him in the wall. That was an odd one. So unnecessary.
Couple of muppets. What was that all about? Magnussen does it time and time again. Everyone backs off to try and prepare a fast lap. You want to get as much clear space as you can. But The classic thing to do. Also, Perez does it. Remember in Hungary, Perez backed off, Ricciardo tried to pass him, both of them were out of quali.
Was it here Perez did a crazy move coming into the last couple of corners?
Sirotkin
Like that?
last year, yeah,
that was on
penalty,
Perez.
but that was Perez moved and chopped across the nose of Sirotkin in the race. But Magnussen as well, and back to Monza last year, him and Alonso had a bit of a ding-dong, knocked them both out of qualifying, and this sort of thing, it's frustrating to go so slowly, but you just make sure you get some clear space. And when Magnussen was trying to pass Perez, there was a car's width plus an inch maybe either side. It was so tight, and Perez just moved across. And they touched, and Magnussen hit the wall as well. It's just so unnecessary in FP2 for two reasonable midfield drivers to be having this stupid sort of incident.
Did you do anything childish in it? Like when you look back and you're a bit like, yeah, that was a bit, but you get sort of caught up in the moment and you end up.
Sometimes you can try and pass the guy in front on an outlet. Okay, you don't have to follow them all round.
No, sure.
And if someone's backing up too much, you can try and pass them.
But that was two drivers just get along.
Right? Yeah, before the final corner, you don't need to be doing that, because you will either completely mess up the other guy's lap. You're entitled to if you can, but it's not. You know, you're better to just say it's practice. I'll do my lap, you do your lap, and we're all happy, rather than mess around like that. For me, that was more GP2 tactic. When I came to GP2, there's 26 cars, all in the same single spec series. You're all trying to find a bit of track position, and then chaos ensues, and you're young, and you're exuberant, and you're everything else. But in Formula 1, there's 20 cars, of which half of them are in the pit lane. You're on a 5 kilometre plus circuit in Singapore. Half of them are going to be yourself a bit of space. Yeah, just give yourself a few seconds and both go around and do a lap.
So your answer is no, you never really did anything a bit.
I probably did. I don't remember it though. Let's not rewatch 2016 and 2017.
No, okay, that's what I do with my weekends off.
That doesn't surprise me.
I
don't think I did that, genuinely.
But actually, for those of you who are interested, there's a great onboard view of Monza 17 on Palmer's F1 video. With you and Alonso, where's Karma, for the first time, unseen footage of your onboard. And
was that unseen, was it?
I'd never seen like the full onboard from your point of view. And you watch it and it's like,
maybe it wasn't Karma after all.
Maybe you were ahead in the braking zone and then led him back past after the chicane and then overtook him, I don't know.
I might go back and complain. Try and get my 5 seconds back.
Just because it's I think they got enough going on. Jenny, where are you?
I'm at Mercedes, just watching some minor kerfuffle with Lewis Hamilton. So the car is ready to go. They've just done a couple of turns on the front wing. They're all good. And then all of a sudden, steps aboard in. Lewis's trainer comes around the other side, and Lewis decides to get out of the car. I expected to come to the brake last minute, but it's caused a little bit of consternation, a little bit of laughter in the garage. All of a sudden, the car's ready, no driver.
Yeah, everyone's in the pits at the moment, aren't they? So I don't think Hamilton will be missing out much if it is a quick. You do drink a lot, I imagine, in Singapore, like in terms of hydration, more so than a regular race.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you sweat so much, you need to be taking on your fluids, and genuinely needing a comfort break is more possible in Singapore, just because you're sweating a lot, you drink a lot, and you try and compensate. If you're in a chilly European country, inevitably you're not sweating just even between sessions walking around the paddock, and you don't need to drink as much to stay hydrated.
Rachel T. Singapore is a much better street circuit than Monaco. Discuss.
No, wrong. But Monaco, they're both brilliant, and they're really very different as well as street circuits go. Monaco is bonkers. Monaco's got the bonkers factor, where I think you're more likely to hit the walls in Monaco. They are that bit closer. The track is that bit more narrow. There's so much more undulation as well. Some of my favourite corners are in Monaco. Singapore's got a bit more wow factor. Monaco's got the harbour and the atmosphere in Monaco. I would argue is better than Singapore, going to the race weekend. But Singapore the night, and the cars look superb on track. And as a racetrack, Singapore is better. Monaco is not a good racetrack.
Yeah.
You've seen countless poor, boring Monaco races, even if this year's I quite enjoyed. But yeah, they're different, and I enjoy them both. But I don't think Singapore is much better than Monaco.
Are there any great corners on Singapore?
No.
Are there any that you really like, or
No. They're all. If you take all the corners in isolation, most of them are 90 degrees left or right.
is the back not at 90 left?
No, I don't know. Is it actually 90 degrees? The back feels, but it's quite a quick corner. The back, but you're approaching it from a lower speed as well. It's probably similar to turn 10 here.
Yeah.
But it's I think it's just tight. You got the swimming pool section and stuff. You don't breathe around Monaco. You can pretty much do an entire lap. You don't take a breath. It's just one corner after another, and even the straights are corner. You can't take a tear off. You can't have a drink. I mean, you can, but in fleeting, quick moments. Whereas Singapore, it's the closest next thing to that, but it's not quite as crazy as Monaco. But Singapore's cool as well. But the corners in isolation aren't as good as I love Massenet in Monaco. The second corner up the hill, you come out of Singapore and you just see the sky as you're weaving your way between the barriers up to the second corner, Casino Massenet. They're lovely corners.
Shops on one side, cliff on the other.
Yeah, it's beautiful to watch. To drive, it's even better. And you've got a bit of a mix of corners, and then challenges is more in Monaco than it is in Singapore. Singapore, you've got the conditions as well. The 33 degrees track temp, 30 degrees air temp at 9:30 in the evening. I mean, you've got different things to take into account, which is also great and adds to the race. But I think Monaco is still special on the F1 calendar.
29 minutes left on the clock here on 5 Live Sports Extra. Second practice for the Singapore Grand Prix. Hamilton quickest on a 1 minute 38.7, a tenth ahead of Verstappen on a 38.9. Vettel 8 tenths back on a 39.5, then 1.1 from Hamilton to Bottas in fourth on a 39.8. Then we've got Albon, Leclerc, but again, Leclerc and Vettel both missed out on their first laps on their soft tyres. Sainz is 7th, Hulkenberg 8th, Norris 9th, Gasly 10th. Kvyat, Ricciardo, Perez, Giovinazzi, Stroll the top 15, Raikkonen, Grosjean, Russell, Magnussen and Kubica the top 20 as it stands. Russell 8 tenths of a second quicker of his teammate Robert Kubica. Daniel Kvyat making his way around as we now start the long run. Still both Mercedes and the Red Bull of Albon and the Ferrari of Vettel, the front runners, are in the pit lane. Pretty much everybody is heading out now to get cracking on a race run. With 28 minutes left on the clock, and that involves going through the pit lane for doing cracking starts at the end of the pit lane and then cracking on the way. Anything else notable? Again, McLaren and Renault looking. McLaren and Renault have looked best of the rest. Really, all season sort of swapping between them, but it's still. Well, Renault have now managed to recover. That was a big point swell actually, wasn't it? With the fourth and fifth, that's really brought them up into fifth place, which is more appropriate to where they sort of should have been. They were down behind Toro Rosso before that, so that's good news for the Renault team. Toro Rosso are looking okay there as well in the midfield.
Toro Rosso got that big haul, of course, in Germany when Kvyat was on the podium and Albon not far behind him, so that's just sort of swung back towards Renault's way after their good performance in Monza, and they're picking up where they left off really, both them and McLaren looking strong. And as you say, the Toro Rosso team, Honda engines, they were both in Q3 in Monaco, and they should go well here, and they are. Alfa Romeo slipped, they've had a tough day. Alfa Romeo, Haas we've just mentioned, and Williams being Williams, but a little bit closer actually here.
27 minutes left on the clock. Stroll and Raikkonen are still in the pits, as is Alex Albon, and Jenny's at McLaren.
Yeah, just an update on them. Obviously, the points haul for Renault last time out was compounded by the fact that McLaren didn't stop. They just keep
So
seeing
we've got Lewis Hamilton, who is quickest after the first hour or so of this session at 38.7, and it looks like it's just going to be a two-way fight between he and Max Verstappen, because they are 8 tenths of a second clear of the rest of the pack. Sebastian Vettel and the Ferrari team looking a little adrift. So Hamilton quickest,
Verstappen second, those two right together, and we've got full coverage on 5 Live Sports Extra. "26 minutes left on the clock." Jenny, what were you saying?
I was saying, hopefully you can hear me okay, because I've now changed location, but I'm just watching Alex Commander Oldham in his pit-stop tyres. I'm saying McLaren, they just keep having these issues, reliability issues. They had an issue with a pit stop last time out, so the Renault scoring big in Italy and McLaren not getting a good ball of points really shows the difference. And Renault now reckon, okay, we're back at it, we can get loads of points. McLaren think the same thing. The issue that they had with their pit stop, that ground holding just for this session, they've resolved that, they've put something into place which means it can't happen again. They understand the issue. But Lando Norris, reliability scoring is not a pretty season for him when it comes to the reliability of the car, or having a little incident here and there. He's tried in 5 retirements he's had. So they need to get a bit more consistency with McLaren, a bit more consistency with Norris, but it'll be a good fight in the last few rounds to see which of those comes out on top.
I still think McLaren have got it relatively under control, to be honest. I think the Monza circuit favoured Renault. They have made good progress, and they're showing that so far today. But McLaren pit stop woes. Remember, Sainz should have scored good points at Monza, but for that pit stop error, basically sending him out with only 3 properly attached wheels on his car. But also remember, Norris just 2 races before in Budapest lost a load of points because he had a very slow pit stop and dropped from what was 7th place and finished down in 9th. So it's not the first time McLaren have had pit stop woes, and of course they've had poor reliability on top of that as well, with Norris in Belgium retiring from 5th place on the final lap. That was a big haul, gone. So it's not an absolute done deal for McLaren. I think Monza will be a bit of an eye-opener for them, but I still expect them to get that done. I've not really looked fully at the sort of championship points in terms of constructors and really sort of thought about it. In terms of Mercedes up at the top with 505, Ferrari 351, 150 whatever points behind. Red Bull 100 points further back on 266. And then 4th is McLaren on 83, and Renault on 65. Like the gaps are outrageous. Are you saying it's not going down to the wire?
Yeah, no,
the Constructors' Championship.
No, but I feel like it's always okay. Mercedes are dominating or whatever, but it's always kind of felt kind of close everywhere else. But until you get to the battle for 6th, that's about like the gaps are massive. McLaren in 4th to have 83 compared to Red Bull in 3rd, 266. I mean, it just illustrates that the top 3 teams, which I know has been the case, but that's quite a startling in terms of the numbers. Well, McLaren and Renault turn up to a race weekend thinking the best they can do is 7th. Yeah, that's the fact of it. And yes, maybe in Monza there's issues for Verstappen, there's issues for Albon, the quality debacle, and some good pace Renault can get in amongst it. But that is basically the long and short of it, the A race and the B race, and that is the gap. Remember also, Red Bull could have had a lot more points if they had 2 Max Verstappens in the car, because for half the season, Pierre Gasly struggled to really get on terms with the Ferrari. Verstappen scored more points than both the Ferrari drivers, so that should be a tight fight really for second of the constructors.
There's another interesting stat came up just then, Jack, on the screen while you were talking about that, which I hadn't realised, was that tied for most poles this year are Hamilton, Bottas and Leclerc. And you think of a year that apparently dominated by Mercedes, it's just an interesting sign.
Although that presumably means double Mercedes to Ferrari poles.
Well, yeah,
maybe
true.
Not quite, but Vettel's only had 1. Hamilton, and so that means it's 6 Mercedes poles to 4 Ferrari poles, but that's still actually pretty
Still
close.
closer than you would think championship.
Yeah, and 1 for Verstappen.
Yeah, what maths are you doing then?
Bottas 3.
8 to 4, presumably.
Bottas 3, Hamilton 3. No?
Well, if they're all the same as Leclerc,
Oh, sorry, 4 and 4, my apologies. You're right. 8 to 5. 8.
Mercedes to Ferrari, and 1 to Red Bull. Verstappen in Hungary as well. But that's still 8-6. Mercedes beat anyone. Yeah, they've had a good year.
The other thing to say about qualifying is that Bottas was 4-1 up on Hamilton after Spain qualifying, and since then it's been 7-2 to Hamilton.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's pretty much the illustration of the championship, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Bottas was right there after Spain. Monaco, remember Monaco? He was so close to qualifying on pole, and Hamilton whipped out that final last hurrah in Q3 and just pitched it away from him. I mean, Bottas would have won the Grand Prix in Monaco if he had started on pole, and it would have gone on even longer, the championship fight, until he really had a poor weekend in Canada and then slipped away, and he's never really recovered from that. But it was very tight in the early stages, but not anymore. Jenny.
I'm waiting for the year. That's your reading.
Just going to do.
That guy is your teammate Lando Norris, but yeah, he caught up with Carlos Sainz in the other McLaren and then got held up by him. But anyway, Jenny.
And then held me up. How rude. Yeah, when a Red Bull then produce a car which is consistent through the season, you look at that gap, and most of it is from the first part of a season. I'm just desperate for the time when they can take the form that they show midway to the end of a season with, you know, a couple of wins for Verstappen under his belt, pole positions, that sort of form, and bring it to the beginning of a season so that we can actually have them competing as well as Ferrari and Mercedes. It's so frustrating. You say it every year.
Yeah, one day F1 will be great, and we'll have an absolutely incredible season, but and hopefully that's sooner rather than later. I'm still, you still enjoy last year, and you still have enjoyed this year, but like the recipe for it is all there, but it just doesn't quite come together, does it? 20 minutes left on the clock. Hamilton quickest, Verstappen second still, and then Vettel, Bottas, Albon, the top 5, Leclerc, Sainz, Hulkenberg, Norris, Gasly, the top 10 as it stands. Raikkonen's returned to the pits. Everybody else is out on the circuit at the moment. Only Bottas of the front runners is on the medium compounder tyre at the moment. Everybody else lapping on the softs. It was a bit of an odd one for Norris and Sainz, to be honest, because Norris seemed to be going a lot quicker than Sainz, and suddenly Sainz was slowed down. You think that of all your engineer warnings, it's going to be your teammate who you're most aware of. Sounding in here is Lando Norris, coming through the final couple of corners. Less than half the points of his teammate Sainz, but I don't think he's been that kind of level away. Something really crackling as it goes underneath the commentary box there. Was it someone returning to the pit lane? Might have been, Gasly coming into the pits at the end of his little run with 18 minutes left on the clock. Hamilton still quickest, and as I say, Bottas is out on the medium compound tyre. Hulkenberg down on the hard compound then. So Renault fancying doing a little bit of long run, hard running. They have brought 2 hards for Hulkenberg, so and only 1 medium, so he's basically just using up the tyre allocation. This is when you can to figure out something other than just a soft tyre, which almost everyone's on right now. There's about 14 of them on softs, Kubica on a medium, Russell on a hard. Gasly has just left the pits, having come noisily past the commentary box, and he's back out on a hard tyre as well. So 17 minutes to go. The night sky twinkles underneath the Singapore docks with a little bit of haze in the air, and in the commentary box, Andrew Benson's been working hard.
Long Run Corner with Andrew Benson.
Oh dear, it never gets old, does it, that jingle? Dear me, when are we going to stop that? Anyway, so you know how it looked close between Hamilton and Verstappen on a single lap? Not so much on a race run. In fact, Hamilton's a second a lap faster on average. Just dipped down to 9/10 actually on that last lap, but yeah, so Hamilton's first lap 44.8, then a 44.7, then a 45.2. Verstappen's 45.7, 45.9, 45.9. It does not bode well for a close race, I'm afraid.
Ferrari?
Nowhere. Vettel's quicker of the two Ferrari drivers, but he's doing 46. Sorry, Leclerc's quicker than the two Ferrari drivers, 46.0 on average, a bit slower than Verstappen. But again, miles on Hamilton.
Thanks for that. That can't be true.
Well, I don't. But it can't be. You wouldn't think. But then remember Hamilton's lap. He had the understeer in the first sector and everything. So, you know, maybe he didn't optimise his lap. I don't know.
Hamilton's had a very strong day. No two ways about it. He's looked really good with pretty much every lap. He's going to top the times of the day as well. Nearly 2 tenths clear of Verstappen, but a full 8 clear of anyone else. So he has had a very good day. I can't imagine he's going to check out by a second a lap on Sunday, but sometimes also in the long runs you have different fuel, you don't have to run the maximum fuel allowance of 100 kilos or 105, so maybe they can run a little bit less. Either way though, looking very, very good, and they have looked good on race pace. That's not a surprise, is it really, from where they've been all season long. Hamilton's just been held up by the Toro Rosso of Pierre Gasly. Here's Hamilton's radio.
That's just slower than me.
Gasly, 10-second gap behind.
There's just no point of racing me. You just literally came out the pit lane.
Yeah, we were thinking the same. Hamilton's asking who it is. Like, some drivers, you seem to always know who you were racing against. I feel like you always, you would always be up behind a person and be like, all right, that's so and so. We saw it earlier with who was it giving Sainz a bit of, or Gasly? I can't remember who it was. So one of the drivers earlier was, a front runner, but up against one of the back markers and knew exactly who it was. But then I get the feeling that some drivers don't know who they're actually behind. Well, that does appear to be the case from that radio message. But is that something you sort of actively learned? Like, how did you know if it was like Sainz or Gasly? I think you get used to. I think their helmets, when you'd see them coming in the distance and see when they're sort of turning who it was. The rear of the cars all look the same, but I think you'd sort of figure out as you're approaching who it is you're dealing with from when they're turning in and what their helmet looks like. Of course, they got the halo now as well, which makes it a little bit harder to spot from the back of the car. The helmet isn't that much less visible. But you do it in every category, like GP2, or if you were at the back of GP2 and you're, in your sort of championship year, you're like, yeah, I've got no idea who this guy is on the bus. No, I knew who I was racing. But there's sometimes you're in GP2 and you get a sort of mid to back end driver that they switch around a little bit. And you don't know who the guy is that you're racing, because you don't really know either of them. They change every race, and they're similar on pace, and it doesn't really matter. But when the regulars, you know who they are, yeah. But when you're racing, I was changing my driving style depending on who I was racing, and I think people do this. When Daniel Ricciardo is sitting behind Valtteri Bottas, sending in a lunge 5 car lengths back, I've never seen him do that to Lewis Hamilton. I've never seen him fire a lunge from 5 car lengths back on Lewis Hamilton, and he's been within 5 car lengths of a braking zone. Yeah, but he does do it to Bottas. Now that's because he knows Bottas is maybe a little bit of a softer touch in some of the wheel-to-wheel battles. He's probably going to be more likely to back out of it than Hamilton, who's maybe inherently more aggressive. If Verstappen's behind you, don't leave a door open at all. The same with Ricciardo, to be honest. So you need to know who you're racing, because they've all got different strengths and weaknesses. Who did you like to race in F1? Or did you not really? Who would you come up behind and be like, yeah, this is a done deal? Or is there just less wheel-to-wheel in F1, so you don't even... there's a bit less wheel-to-wheel. I would say when I was driving, Stoffel Van Dorn would have been a nicer one. We had him in the commentary box in Belgium, so I feel a bit awkward saying that now. But, but he was a target. He wasn't... I had him or Alonso in the 2 McLarens. And now, Alonso was the hardest target that you'd find, because even if he was on absolutely shot tyres doing 5 seconds a lap slower than you, he'd somehow go all crossed up into the corner, desperate to keep you behind, when he's fighting for absolutely nothing, for 15th place or something. Whereas other drivers just don't fight you as hard, and you learn more who they are. I had it more in GP2 probably as well, but yeah, it's some Kevin Magnussen notoriously hard to race against. Even when I was his teammate, he was harder than everyone else as well. So you learn about them, and you either get told on the radio, but a lot of the time you've got to work it out for yourself. Jenny, where are you? What are you up to?
I'm in the pit lane. Actually, I just got hit by a rather large chunk of tyre. It's a bit weird. Like 1 inch by 2 inches, and I have no idea where it came from. I'm not that close to it. The tyre gets flicked up that much?
Oh yeah, if they're coming past you at 180 miles an hour.
Well, there we go.
Did it hit you on the top of the head or like square in the face?
It hit me on my chest. So that
what,
was
from
weird.
above or from direct? And you didn't see it coming?
Oh no, I did not see it coming. There we go. I was just going to make a comment, apart from the tyre, about Hamilton. And when I spoke to him yesterday, he was a really chatty bit. He launched his fashion range, the new iteration of it, this week. Then flew in here yesterday. And you go well round here, don't you? It should be a good weekend. So, you know, I don't want to be too complacent. Yes, I did that amazing lap last year in pole. That's what we were referring to. His pole lap was incredible. It was that thing of magic. He said that was the only lap all weekend that I nailed. And I didn't nail anything in the race. So for him, it's about putting in the race stints. It's about making sure he corrects that mistake from last year. He's so critical of himself. He wants to come back here and do better. So the pole lap, he knows he's got it within himself, but he feels like he can definitely improve on the race. So that's maybe why he's going out there and giving it a bit more full beat. Who knows? It's
something Charles Leclerc said this week as well, that he's only focusing on the negatives after the last 2 races. What he said, he's only focusing on where things went wrong and what things went bad, and trying to work on them, which was quite interesting. Here's Bottas' radio.
I'm managing the temperatures quite a lot, so I can go a bit quicker.
Copy that. We want to see a lap. What's the real pace?
Okay, so Bottas being asked to show his real pace, and we don't know how long ago that message was. So whether it was the last 1 minute 46.6 or whether he's on a quicker lap now, Bottas will keep an eye on that, because that's a bit of an odd. I don't really understand that. If he's just driving around managing the temperatures, and the team are like, well, I can go a bit faster, and the team are like, well, yeah, we want to see the real pace. Isn't this why we're doing the long runs? Well, there's 2 ways of looking at it. This is, I'm assuming, talking about the tyre temp. Yeah, going to be the most critical here. You can go around pushing flat out, and you can kill the tyres in 5 laps, which isn't what you do in a race. Which isn't what you do in a race. Or you can drive around a little bit slower, but not absolutely root the rear tyres, not give them spikes of temperature, and you might get 15 or 20 laps out of them. So it's basically the toss-up of that. And now when you go into a long run, do you drive around like you might in a race, or do you drive around just flat out to see how quickly they will go? Because they will go if you drive flat out, fully spent on the soft tyre. So surely you drive around like you would in the race. That's what I mean. I don't quite get why they want him to push full beats. I think at some point do 1 lap full beats just to see how much you're actually you're giving away from them, and sometimes just to see actually how much they will degrade at full beats, because maybe sometimes you can push hard and actually they just hang on, and you're actually just under driving, trying to save them a bit. Just seeing, Bottas has just had a bit of a moment coming into the pit lane, got right up on the curb, and the back end stepped down a little, so it would have been that 46.6, whatever it was, that may have been the lap that they were talking about, where Bottas gave it a bit of an attack. He then almost lost it coming into the pit lane. It doesn't. I don't feel like you see much drama coming into the pit lane here, or little nudge of the wall. Didn't really hit it there, Romain Grosjean. It was a bit of a weird, sort of lazy rub of the wall, because he was pretty much out of the corner. But anyway, who has it had a shocker coming out of the pit lane here? Nico Rosberg, 2009 in the Williams, lost 3rd place, drive-through penalty straight on. Thank you. It's a really easy one to get wrong. Yeah. This pit lane exit, really, really easy. Here's Lewis Hamilton's radio.
They're going to fall apart. Okay, so boxed into the snap, switching to medium tyre.
That's Hamilton on a soft tyre, then he's just come into the pits. So we'll be switching to a medium for the last 6.5 minutes. First time I raced here was in GP2 2012. and I was running third place, ticking along really nicely, came in for a pit stop, left, and I almost did the same thing. It's really tight to the left-hand side. You get quite used to pit lane exits just sort of filtering onto the racing line, but the way the track goes at a much it's much more open than the pit lane exit, which hugs the inside wall to the left. And I ended up locking up. I was so close to going straight over that white line as well.
How much are you practicing pit lane entries and exits in GP2 as it was then Formula 2 now? Like in your pre-practice session, are you going in and out of the pit spots, or actually you go out on a set of tyres for 20 laps and then another 20? You know, you're only doing it twice in a session.
Yeah, you're doing it twice in a session, exactly. You're not doing one practice session.
Compared to these F1 guys who are in and out of the pits all the time.
Yeah, and they do install laps where they'll be practicing a pit lane entry and everything else. So in Formula 1 you get it absolutely dialed in. GP2 you have one practice session where you might come in a couple of times and go out a couple of times, and when you go out you're probably in a queue as well, so you can't go flat out because there's a line of cars going from the green light and trundling out. So really you have basically no practice of the pit lane exit. You get a little bit more on the entry.
Romain Grosjean spun at turn 2, rejoins the circuit. He had that sort of weird, was it a bit harsh to call it a lazy brush of the wall? It looked like he was through the corner earlier on.
I think it was just still, you're fighting the car quite a long way out of the corner though, so he's still fighting with the rear, wanting to straight line as much as he can, and he just kissed the left rear on the wall. No harm done for Grosjean. This one was a little bit more substantial, and that was a bit of a lazy spin. Got wide onto the Astro, and rear tyres just giving up, and Grosjean just lost it on the right-hander of turn 2.
Are you okay? Are you okay? Yeah, we just need to avoid talking into corners. Apologies.
Avoid talking into corners.
So is he blaming the engineer for that spin?
Yeah. That's what it was. In response to, are you okay? Just, yeah, but don't talk to me in the corners.
Okay. Hamilton, quickest. Verstappen, second. Vettel, third, 8 tenths away. Bottas, fourth. Albon, fifth. Do we need the sting again, or are we good? No, we're good. Andrew Benson, any further news, or is it pretty much the same story?
I've stopped tracking because they've all changed tyres, but what I would say was that not only was Hamilton faster than everybody else on the soft tyre, which is the one they're all pushing, they're going to start the race, but he also ran it a lot longer than anybody else. Just rode that well in most races at the moment, I'm afraid to say.
Okay, here we go. Someone did tweet in that they really love the jingle. Ed Bishop, highlight of the weekend, love the jingle. So there we go. We're not getting rid of it now. 3.5 minutes left on the clock. Hamilton out on the medium compounder tyres, then Verstappen's gone out on a set of hards. But really, we've sort of learned all that we will learn this evening as it comes up to 10 PM in Singapore. The second practice session, final practice session of the day. You can join us tomorrow for pre-practice 3, and then qualifying is on the BBC Sport website. So that will be getting underway tomorrow evening on the BBC Sport website, or tomorrow afternoon if you're listening in the UK, of course. And then the race on Sunday afternoon will be on 5 Live Sports Extra. It gets underway at 1:10 in the UK, which is 8:10 here in Singapore. Hamilton coming around the final couple of corners now. Very strong day for him, but Verstappen is there or thereabouts. He's looking at pretty much a rerun of last year. And the long run pace, we shouldn't be too doom and gloom about it. Yeah, Mercedes are quick on the long runs, but that's to be expected right now. It's quali pace that counts for pretty much everything around this circuit. If Hamilton takes pole, he's in a good position, don't get me wrong. But if Verstappen can get him off the line, or Vettel, if Ferrari can find a bit overnight, we could have an absolute thriller on our hands, with Mercedes having better pace in the race, as they have done for the last 2 Grand Prix as well. So it's still interesting. Hamilton is looking really strong, but Verstappen's quite close, and I think Vettel's got something to offer as well. I think Ferrari have had an all-right day. Does this feel like a long race? When you're in 2016, and I guess also in 2017, if it was, but does it feel like, how is this race still going? Because it must be the longest race you've ever done, apart from maybe Brazil 16 in the rain or something like that. Oh no,
That
'cause
was
you
a
crashed
short
out.
race for me,
Yeah,
then.
no, sorry, apologies.
No, it is. It feels long. It feels really long, this one. You just end up... It's one of those ones you drive around and you've been driving for about an hour and you're like, oh, must be nearly there. You've done your pit stop and you're like, right. I'm in 6th position. I'm having an absolute corker. Look up at the pit board. You're expecting to see like 6 laps to go. 42 laps to go. You're like, oh my, this is just non-stop. And you don't look again for another half an hour and there's like 30 laps to go. And it just goes on and on and on.
Boring.
Can be. Yeah. 2016, it was boring for me, yes. I can't really remember who I was in a fight with, but I didn't have a great weekend there. And yeah, it went on. And it's hard work as well. It is a really... I mean, the drivers are so fit and you train really hard pretty much for this race because this is the hardest it gets. With the heat, humidity, the long race, the full 2 hours pretty much. And the bumps, the barriers being so close. There's so much that goes into it. And yeah, quite frankly, it's a long slog sometimes on a Sunday afternoon unless you're ticking along in 6th place.
You were behind Carlos Sainz and ahead of Fairline in the Manor. Does that ring any bells?
Nah, not really.
Wiped it from your memory, have you, that one?
I know what happened in the next race in Malaysia.
Well, we don't need to go into that.
That's not on the calendar anymore, unfortunately.
No. Point.
A point? First one.
Checker flag falls. Hamilton ends the session quickest on a 1 minute 38.773. 2/10 quicker than Max Verstappen in second on a 1 minute 38.9. A little note, Sergio Perez has been summoned to the stewards for his run-in with Kevin Magnussen earlier on in the session.
What's wrong with that?
What?
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with what?
Putting someone in the wall.
Let them race.
Let them race.
Let
Black
them
and white
race.
warning flag. Get on with it. That's what we want.
Vettel, third, we're being sarcastic. Vettel third, Bottas fourth, Albon fifth. Leclerc, Sainz, Hulkenberg,